Understanding VLSM. So this is I think this is the fourth video of the subnetting subseries. We're going to be looking at variable length subnet masking, seeing how it works, and how we can make our IP address assignment process in our network more efficient. So all VLSM is, variable length subnet masking, is the process of taking an address block and breaking it down into subnets of different sizes. So far, the subnetting we've been doing is known as fixed length subnet masking. So with fixed length subnet masking, all of our subnets are the same size, and to work out our subnet mask for fixed length subnet masking, we work out how many subnets we're going to need, while still allowing for enough addresses for the largest of subnets. The way it works is that we look at, okay, we need to have X amount of subnets, and out of these subnets, our largest subnet will have, let's say, 200 hosts per subnet. So we have to find out what subnet mask we can use, which allows us to have the correct amount of subnets, but also allows us to support the largest of our segments. And so the problem with fixed length subnet masking is that even though we are still being more efficient with the IP address assignment, not every single segment we have, so not every single VLAN, every single WAN link is going to have the same number of hosts or devices. So as an example, a WAN link is a prime example of this. So we may use a /23 mask because VLAN 10's got like 500 hosts in it. A /23 mask will give us 9 host bits to play with, which allows for 510 usable IP addresses. And let's say we're using a class A network block to begin with, so we've got a lot of subnets. With fixed length subnet masking, we would have to assign that /23 subnet to the WAN links as well. Even though there's a massive waste of IP addresses, we're wasting 508 IP addresses by assigning a /23 to a WAN link. We still have to do it because we've made the choice to use a single subnet mask throughout our entire enterprise network. With variable length subnet masking, what we could do is that we look at the network requirements based on each segment, so based on each VLAN, so the size of each VLAN, the size of each WAN link, and we choose a subnet mask based on those requirements. So as an example, for the WAN links, we know that we'll only ever have two devices on either on that segment, one on either end of the link. So why do we need to have a /23 or /24? We could use a much smaller, larger subnet mask, which allows for less host IP addresses, therefore allowing us to save on the IP addresses that we have. And so with VLSM subnetting, we look at each subnet individually and choose a subnet mask based on the size of that subnet. So the subnet mask chosen isn't a one fits all method. It's more of that we look at each subnet and we choose the subnet mask we're going to use based on the requirements of that subnet. And this allows us to be more efficient with the IP addressing assignment because we're wasting fewer IP addresses. So as an example, with the WAN links and the /23 mask, we could use a /30 mask on the WAN links. However, the problem with variable length subnet masking is that it's very complex. See, with fixed length subnet masking, because you're using the same subnet mask throughout your enterprise network, there's no worry that the address ranges will overlap. And then once you've worked out the address ranges for one subnet, the address ranges will basically be the same for each subnet, and you've worked out your increment for that subnet. It makes it very, very easy. So you've worked out your increment, you know your first subnet, the subnet ID of your second subnet ID of your third subnet, and the range of addresses would be the same for each subnet. With variable length subnet masking, because we're using different subnets within an enterprise network, it means that we have to do the math for each subnet individually. So we need to calculate how many hosts we're going to need. We're going to need to calculate the increment for each segment. We're going to have to calculate the range of addresses, the network address and the broker address individually for each segment that we have. So for each VLAN, for each WAN link, we're going to have to calculate those things, which makes it complex. And one of the main things we have to watch out for with variable length subnet masking is making sure that the subnets we choose for each segment don't overlap with the subnet chosen for another segment. And once we get into the example of variable length subnet masking in this video, you'll see what I mean by address ranges overlapping, so overlapping subnets. So with variable length subnet masking, there's a process that we can follow in order to ensure the variable length subnet masking is as easy as possible and is as smooth as possible. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to list segments in order from largest to smallest. So as an example, let's say we have 10 VLANs. 2 of the VLANs have 50 hosts, 3 VLANs have got 40 hosts, and then the other 5 VLANs have got 500 hosts. What we would do, we would list segments in order from largest to smallest. So we'll start off with the largest segment with the most amount of hosts in it. Then the second largest segment, which has got the second largest amount of hosts in it, going all the way down until we get to the segment which has the least amount of host devices in it. Second step, we work at the subnet mask for the first segment. Then we assign that subnet mask to the largest segment. Then we work at the subnet mask for the next largest segment, assign a subnet to the next largest segment, making sure it doesn't overlap with the first subnet assigned to the largest segment. Then step 6, we repeat the process until all subnets have been assigned a subnet. Now with variable length subnet masking, me talking about it isn't going to make you understand the process of how to variable length subnet mask, and it will make you understand the difficulties that we face when we perform variable length subnet masking. What is going to make you understand is an example. So in this example, we're given class B address 172.16.0/16, and we have 4 departments. So imagine, instead of looking at departments, look at them as VLANs. So we have 4 different VLANs in an enterprise network. The sales department has 100 hosts, the IT department has 20 hosts, the HR department has 5 hosts, and the account department has 200 hosts. Now if we were doing fixed length subnet masking, we would just choose a /24 mask, which would allow for which would allow for 250 for usable IP addresses, which would be enough IP addresses for the accounting department, and would allow for 256 subnets, which would be enough subnets in order to give each segment its own subnet. However, if we were doing fixed length subnet masking, we would have a massive wastage of IP addresses because the IT department and HR department are really small, and we've got 3 WAN links as well. So if we were doing fixed length subnet masking, we would have massive wastage of IP addresses. With variable length subnet masking, we're going to look at each subnet individually, work out the best subnet mask for that subnet, and the best subnet mask is the subnet mask which has the smallest number of host IP addresses or the smallest number of host bits, while still meeting the host requirements for that subnet or for that segment. So in this example, I've drawn out the diagram here. As you can see, the IT department needs 20 hosts, the HR department needs 5 hosts, accounting needs 200 hosts, 2 hosts per WAN link, and 100 hosts for the sales department. Okay, so I've got my notepad editor opened up over here. And the first thing we're going to do with variable length subnet masking is we're going to list the segments in order from smallest to largest. So we know that our largest segment, or our largest VLAN, is going to have 200 hosts. Our next largest segment is going to have 100 hosts. Our next largest segment is going to have 20 hosts, which is going to be the IT department, so I'll put the names here. So accounting. Then we got sales. Then we got IT. Then we got HR, which has got 5 hosts. Then we have the WAN links, which have 2 hosts each. Okay, so I've listed the segments in. So I've done step 1. I've listed the segments I have in order from smallest to largest. All segment is you could think of it as like a VLAN or a WAN link. So anything which is any network segment in its own broadcast domain. Anything in its own broadcast domain is in its own network segment. So as you can see here, these devices are in their own broadcast domain. So are these devices. So are these devices. So they're in their own segments. They're in their own segments. So once we've done that, the next thing that I would do before doing any subnetting, let's work out how many subnet bits I'm going to need in order to have 200 hosts per subnet, 100 hosts per subnet, 20 hosts per subnet, 5 hosts per subnet, and 2 hosts per subnet. So in order to do this, let's increment in powers of 2 until we meet the requirement. So again, 2 to the power of 1 is 2, 2 to the power of 2 is 4, 2 to the power of 3 is 8, 2 to the power of 4 is 16, 2 to the power of 5 32, 2 to the power of 6 64, 2 to the power of 7 is 128, and 2 to the power of 8 is 256. So from here, we know that in order to meet the needs of the accounting department, we're going to need to have at least 8 host bits, so 8 host bits. In order to meet the needs of the sales department, we're going to need to have at least 7 host bits, so 7 host bits. In order to meet the needs of the IT department, we're going to need to have at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 host bits. 5 host bits. In order to meet the needs of the HR department, we're going to need to have at least 3 host bits. 3 host bits. And now, in order to meet the needs of the WAN links, we're going to need to have 2 host bits. And the reason why I say 2 host bits, because remember that in a subnet there are always 2 IP addresses that are reserved for special use, the network address and the broadcast address. So here it lists if we have 2 host bits, we're going to have 4 addresses. That is true, but only 2 of those addresses will be usable IP addresses because 2 will be reserved for special purposes. So 2 host bits. Okay. Now, taking that into mind, let's work out how. So we know that we've got a class A network was so 10.0.0.0/8 was a standard mask of 255.0.0.0, which means we have 8 network bits. Okay. Now I need to work out how many subnet bits I'm going to have for the account department, the sales department, the IT department, HR department, and for the WAN links. So in order to do this, we know that we have, so for the account department, we know that we have at least 8 host bits and 8 network bits, which gives us 16 bits which are already being used. That means that if we subtract 16 from 32, there are 16 bits which are free. Those 16 bits will be subnet bits, okay? If we add 8 to 16, we get 24. So account department will be a /24 mask, which will be a subnet mask in decimal of 255.255.255.0. Read this back a bit. Yeah, it's on one line, okay? Now, for the sales department, we know that we've got 7 host bits, and we've got 8 host bits for and 8 bits for the network part. So the bits, so in the subnet mask, the bits in the subnet mask which are already being used are 8 plus 7. So in the subnet mask already, there are 15 bits which are being used. 32 minus 15 to calculate how many bits are free are not being used equals 22, 17. So there are 17 bits not being used. That means that those bits will be subnet bits. That means that the subnet mask for the sales department will be 17 plus 8, which is 25 binary ones, will be a /25. Okay, a /25 is equal to 255.255 /25 255.255.255.128. Let me make it a bit bigger so I've got more room to work with. Okay, now let's look at the subnet mask we're going to use for the IT department. So again, same thing. We know that the 8 bits are already being used for the network part, and 5 bits are going to be reserved for the host part, because we need at least 5 bits to meet the requirements, which gives us 13 bits already being used in our subnet mask. 32 minus 13 equals 22, 19. So we have 19 subnet bits. If we do 19 plus 8, what does this give us? So this gives us a /27. So our subnet mask for the IT department is going to be a /27. /27 is 255.255.255. We've got 3 binary ones in the last octet, which gives us 224. And let's work out how the subnet mask for the HR department. Again, we know that we've got 8 bits reserved for the network part, and we need to reserve only 3 bits for the host part. This gives us 11 bits of the subnet mask already in use. 32 minus 11 equals 21. So we're going to have 21 subnet bits. To work out how many binary ones we're going to have, let's add the network bits to the subnet bits, which gives us 21 plus the 8 gives us 29. So we're going to have so our subnet mask will be a /29. A /29 in decimal is 255.255.255. We've got 5 binary ones in the lost octet, which gives us 192, 224, 240, 248. 248. Now we know that this one is going to be a /30. This is kind of like, because we've seen this so many times. /30 allows for 2 usable IP addresses. In decimal, this is 255.255.255. We've got 6 binary ones in the lost octet, which gives us 192, 224, 240, 248, 252. 252. This is our subnet mask. Okay, now that we've worked out our subnet mask for each department, let's work out our increment. Okay, so our increment for this, for the account department, is going to be capital A. It's going to be 256 take away 255, which equals 1. Sales department is going to be 256 minus 128, which gives us 128. For the IT department, it's going to be 256 minus 224. What that give us? So that gives us so 56, 36, 32. HR department 256 take away 248, which gives us 8. And with the WAN links, 256 minus 252, which gives us 4. Okay, so now we find out our increment. We now need to calculate the subnet IDs of each subnet using the subnet masks. So for the account department, let's calculate the first few subnet IDs or the first few subnets that we could potentially assign to the accounting department. So we have 10.0.0.0/24, 10.0.1, and we increment in the third octet because in the subnet mask is a /24. The last binary one is in the third octet, so we increment in the third octet to find out our next subnet, or to find out the subnet ID of our next subnet in line. For 10.0.1.2.0/24. Okay, let's calculate some of the subnet ranges for the subnet IDs for the sales department. Again, we know our increment is going to be 128. So, and because the last binary one's in the 4th octet, we increment in the 4th octet to find our next subnet in line. So 10.0.0.0/25, that's the first subnet. Second subnet, 10.0.0.128/25. Third subnet, 10.0.0.1.0/25. And 10, let me go scroll back, and then 10.0.1.128/25. And so from here we can see, so look, we can see here, if we chose to assign the accounting segment the first subnet, we couldn't choose to assign the sales department the first 2/25 subnets because the range of usable IP addresses in these subnets overlaps with the range of usable IP addresses in this subnet over here. So the range of addresses is from 10.0.0.1 through 10.1.254. The range of addresses in this subnet is 10.0.0.1 through 10.0.0.1.127, no, .126, sorry, which is the range of addresses covered by this subnet, and the range of addresses covered by this subnet also overlaps with this subnet. This is why I said it's very important that you list out your subnets first before you assign them, because we could, if I didn't list out my subnets, I could easily assign this subnet to the sales department and this subnet to the account department, and then we're gonna have a problem because we're gonna have two departments in my enterprise network using the same IP addresses, which means that we'll have two devices with the same IP address, which would cause confusion and problems when it comes down to routing. So it's very important that you list the subnets first before you pick a subnet to assign to a segment, because we could have an overlap like this, where the range of addresses covered in one subnet is encompassed by a larger subnet. So in this case, this is a larger subnet, and the range of addresses includes the range of addresses covered by the smaller subnet. So it's very important that you list out your subnets first before you start assigning subnets everywhere. Let's look at the subnets with the IT department. So again, our increment is going to be 32. So the first time it's going to be 10.0.0.0/27, and we're going to increment in the fourth octet, because that's the octet of the subnet mask with the last binary one. 10.0.0.32/27, 10.0.0.64/27, 10.0.0. The 32 is 96/27, 10.0.0.128/27. And I'm not going to continue on now. The reason why is because you'll see that, well, let me just get up until the next decimal one. So 10.0.0. The 32 is 158, 160. Then we go 10.0.0.32.192/27. Then we got 10.0.0. So 32 is 224/27. Then we have 10.0. 32 is going to be 256, which means that we carry over the 1/27. So again, we can see here that we couldn't choose the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 8/27 subnet to assign to the HR to the IT department if we chose the first subnet to assign to the account department, because the range of addresses again overlap. Let's calculate the first few subnets for the HR department quickly. HR. So we got a increment of 8. So we got 10.0.0.0/29. We got 10.0.0.8/29. 10.0.0.16/29. 10.0.0.24/29, and so on. And 10.0.0.30/29, 32, sorry, /29, and then we got 10.0.0.40/29. Okay, so I'm not going to list all of these because it'll take too long. Now let's start listing some of our wilding subnets. This again should be pretty easy. So we got, the increment is going to be 4. So you have 10.0.0.0/30, 10.0.0.4/30, 10.0.0.8/30, 10.0.0.12/30, and so on. So in increments of 4. So now, which subnets am I going to assign to each segment? So in the process, it said we're going to assign the first, so because we're starting with the largest segment, we're going to assign that the first subnet. Then we're going to assign the second largest segment a subnet from the list of subnets available, but make sure that subnet doesn't overlap with the first subnet that we've assigned to our largest segment. So in this case, the first subnet available for the count department is 10.0.00/24. So I'm going to assign that to the count department. So let me just clear this. 10.0.0.0/24. If I look at my range of addresses, I can see that for the sales department, if I assign either of these first 2/25 subnets, it's going to overlap with the subnets with the account department subnets, and the range of addresses will overlap. So instead, I'm going to assign this subnet, so 10.0.1/25 to the sales department, because the range of addresses won't overlap and is the next subnet in line after the accounting department. So 10.0.1/25. Sign that here. Okay. Now, what subnet will I assign to the IT department? So for the IT department, I can't assign any of these subnets. But as you can see, they all follow a pattern. So as you can see, the range of addresses for this subnet here is from 10.0.1.0 through 10.0.1.127. So I need to assign a subnet which is after 127, and as you can see here, the IT department, one of the available subnets is 10.0.0.128. If we were to continue to increment the number of subnets, we would get to the point where we reach subnet 10.0.1.128/27, which is the subnet after this /25. This subnet does not overlap with the range of addresses offered by this subnet, and it's the next subnet in line after this /25 subnet. That this is a subnet that I'm going to assign to the IT department. So 10.0.1.128/27. Now, what subnet will I assign to the HR department? So the range of addresses offered to this subnet, the next subnet in line would be 10.0.1.32, so that's going to be 160/27. So as we can see, the range of addresses goes up in 8 for the HR department. Okay, so the next number is going to be 160. So if I continue to increment by 8, we would get to the point where we reach this subnet, so 10.0.1.0.160, which if we continue to increment by 8, we would eventually get to this subnet, 10.0.1.160/27. That's going to be the subnet that we assign to the HR department. So 10.0.1.160/27. Okay, so we've almost finished our variable and subnet masking design. All we have to do now is assign free and available subnets to our WAN links. So again, these increment by 4. The next subnet in line after this, after the HR department, would be increment by 8. 10.0.1.168/27. This increments by 4. So if we're incrementing by 4, that means we're gonna get to, so 4 times 10 is 40, times 20 is 80. So 4 times 30 is 120. 4 times 40 is 160. 4 times 42 is 168. So if we continue to increment by 4 to find the next subnet in line, we will eventually get to a subnet with this subnet ID, 10.0.0.168/30. And if we continue to increment, we're eventually going to get to a subnet ID with this a subnet with this subnet ID. So that's going to be a /30. Then we're going to have 10.0.1.172/30, and then 10.0.1.176/30. And these are the three subnets that we're going to be assigning to our WAN links. So this is a bit messy. I'm going to pause the video quickly. I'm going to label these links with the proper subnets properly, and I'll be back in a second. Welcome back. So I've cleared up the screen a bit to make it a bit more easier to see and understand. Let me get my text editor. But just so that you can see how the variable length subnet masking works. So as you can see, when variable length subnet masking, we have to ensure the subnets we choose don't overlap with the address ranges of a subnet we've assigned to another segment. So with the counterpart, the prime example was this: we assign this subnet to our accounting segment. If we had assigned this subnet or this subnet to our sales segment, there would be an issue. The reason why is because the address ranges would have overlapped, which meant that we would have duplicate IP addressing. When deciding which subnet to choose, you want to choose the subnet which comes after the first subnet and covers the range of addresses after it. So as an example, the range of addresses covered here is from 10.0.0.1 through 10.0.0.254. By choosing this subnet, we cover the addresses that came after it. So we cover addresses 10.0.1.1 through 10.0.1.126. That's why it's important to list out all the subnets that we can have with our different subnet masks, because then we can see, oh, okay, this is the first subnet, this is the second subnet. In order to so as an example, in order to cover addresses in order to cover the addresses after the account department, I'd have to choose the third subnet here, which covers the addresses after the first 254 IP addresses. This covers the next 32 IP addresses after this. So this is going to be a /29. Example, this covers the next 8 IP addresses after these 32 IP addresses, and these cover the next 4 IP addresses after these 8 IP addresses, the next 4 after these 4, the next 4 after these 4. As you can see, with variable and subnet masking, it isn't difficult, but there's a few gotchas you have to look out for, namely overlapping subnets. That's why it helps if you write down a list of subnets that you can have with that subnet mask, so that you can choose subnets for your segment which don't overlap with other subnets. So we have reached the end of this video, and we've seen how to variable length subnet mask. Again, variable length subnet masking is a skill which you can only improve at and get better at as you do more variable length subnet masking. So if I was you, I would draw a network topology, variable length subnet mask that with different subnets everywhere. So have 200 hosts for one VLAN, 100 hosts for another VLAN. So exactly what I've done here. Do that yourself. Draw your own network topology. Create variable length subnet masks based on the requirements and needs, and look online for some variable length subnet masking questions. I hope this has been informative for you, and I would like to thank you for viewing.